Dojin's feet hurt. They always hurt after a double shift at the spaceport, but today felt worse than usual. 12 hours of loading cargo containers onto ships, bound for distant stars, had left his back aching and his hands covered in small cuts. He walked slowly through the dim corridors of the residential section, thinking only of his small apartment and the chance to finally sit down. The lights in this part of New Seoul Station were always too dim after sunset hours. The colony administration said it saved energy. Do-young thought it just made everything look sad and gray. He turned the corner toward his apartment door and stopped. Someone was lying on the floor dot at first. Do-young thought it might be old Minho from down the hall, who sometimes drank too much and slept in odd places. But as he got closer, his heart began to beat faster. This was not Minho. This was not human at all. The figure was curled up against his door, thin and shaking. The being's skin had a strange quality to it, almost like it should glow, but didn't. Patches of what might have been light flickered weakly across their arms and face. Their clothes were torn and dirty. Do-hyun could see 3 fingers on each hand, long and delicate, pressed against the cold metal floor dot he should call security. That was the rule. Any unregistered alien found in the residential areas should be reported immediately. Do-young reached for his cum device, then stopped. The being made a small sound, something between a whimper and a sigh. They were breathing in short, painful gasps. Do-young put his cum device back in his pocket. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling down. "Can you hear me?" The being's eyes opened slowly. They were large and beautiful, colored like oil on water, shifting between purple and green and gold. But they were also filled with fear. The being tried to move away from him, pressing harder against the door. "It's okay," Do-young said, keeping his voice gentle. "I won't hurt you. Do you need help?" The being stared at him for a long moment. Their mouth moved, but no sound came out at first. Then, in broken galactic standard, they whispered, "Please ... I have no credits. I can work. Please." Do-young's apartment door slid open with his handprint. He carefully helped the being to their feet. They were light, too light, and they shook like a leaf in the wind. He guided them inside and helped them sit on his old couch. The being looked around his small apartment with wide, frightened eyes. "Wait here," Do-young said. "I'll get you some water." He filled a glass from the kitchen tap and brought it back. The being reached for it with trembling hands, but couldn't hold it steady. Water splashed onto the couch. They made a sound of distress and tried to pull away. "It's okay," Do-young said again. "Here, let me help." He held the glass while the being drank. They drank like someone who hadn't seen water in days, gulping it down so fast that Do-young worried they might choke. When the glass was empty, they looked at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. "Thank you," they said. "I will repay. I promise. When I have credits, I will repay." "Don't worry about that now," Do-young said. "When did you last eat?" The being looked confused by the question. "Eat? Food. When did you last have food?" The being's eyes filled with something that looked like shame. 4 days. Maybe 5. I am not certain. Do-young went to his small kitchen. He didn't have much, but he had rice left over from his own dinner and some vegetables. He heated everything up and brought it back on a simple plate. The being stared at the food like they had never seen anything like it before. "Go ahead," Do-young said. "Eat." The being reached out slowly, then pulled back. "What is the cost?" "There's no cost. Just eat. I do not understand. Food has cost. Everything has cost." Do-young sat down in the chair across from the couch. "Not here. Not right now. You're hungry, and I have food. That's all that matters." The being looked at him for a long time, as if trying to solve a difficult puzzle. Then, slowly, they picked up the fork Do-yoon had provided. Their three-fingered hands held it awkwardly, but they managed. They took a small bite of rice and vegetables. Do-yoon watched as the being's eyes grew even wider. They took another bite, then another. Soon they were eating quickly, desperately, like someone who thought the food might disappear. Do-yoon said nothing. He just waited. When the plate was empty, the being set it down carefully. They looked at Do-yoon, and there were tears in their strange eyes. "I do not understand," they said. "Why would you do this? I am nothing. I am void-marked. I have no worth." "Everyone has worth," Do-yoon said simply. The being shook their head. "No, not in my culture. Not for me. I lost everything. My crew left me here. My family will not answer my calls. I am worthless. What's your name?" Do-yoon asked. The being hesitated. "Lyra. My name is Lyra." "I'm Do-yoon." "And you're not worthless, Lyra. You're a person who needed help. That's all." Lyra stared at him. "I do not understand humans," she said softly. "That's okay," Do-yoon said. "You don't have to understand right now. You just need to rest. You can sleep on the couch tonight. We'll figure everything else out tomorrow. But the debt, there is no debt." Lyra looked like she wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Her eyes were already closing. Do-yoon got a blanket from his bedroom and covered her gently. She was asleep in seconds, her breathing finally steady and calm. Do-yoon stood there for a moment, looking at the alien sleeping on his couch. He should still call security. He should report this. But as he watched Lyra sleep, he knew he wouldn't. Something in those scared eyes had touched him. Something in the way she had said, "I am nothing," had broken his heart. He went to his bedroom, but didn't sleep well. He kept thinking about what kind of species would abandon one of their own. What kind of culture would teach someone that they had no worth? It made him angry in a quiet, sad way. When morning came, Do-yoon made a decision. He would call in sick to work. He would stay home and help Lyra. She needed food, rest, and probably medical attention. She needed someone to care. He didn't know it then, but this simple choice would change everything. Not just for Lyra, but for many others who would come after her. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness. Sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to walk past someone in need. Lyra woke slowly, confused by the softness beneath her. For a moment, she thought she was back on her ship in her small bunk. Then memory returned, and with it, shame. She had collapsed. She had accepted help from a stranger. She had created debt without any way to repay it. She sat up and looked around the small apartment. Morning light came through a single window, making everything look warm and gentle. She could hear sounds from the kitchen area. The human, Do-yoon, was making something. The smell made her stomach ache with hunger, even though she had eaten last night. "You're awake," Do-yoon said, noticing her. "Good. I made breakfast. Do you eat eggs?" Lyra didn't know what eggs were, but she nodded. She watched as Do-yoon brought over a plate with strange yellow food and some bread. He set it on the small table and gestured for her to come sit. "I called in sick to work," he said casually. "I thought you might need to see a doctor. There's a free clinic a few blocks from here." "Free?" Lyra asked. The word felt wrong in her mouth. "Yes, they treat anyone who needs help." Lyra ate slowly this time, trying to understand. In Valari society, nothing was free. Everything had a price, a cost, a transaction. Medical care, especially, was expensive. Only those with credits could afford to stay healthy. Those without credits simply suffered or died. "Why do you do this?" she asked between bites. What do you gain from helping me? Do-hyun sat across from her with his own plate. I don't need to gain anything. You needed help. But this makes no economic sense. You use your resources on me. You lose work time. You receive nothing in return. I receive the knowledge that you're safe and fed. That's enough. Lyra set down her fork. Her hands were shaking again, but not from hunger this time. I need to tell you something. I need you to understand what I am. Do-hyun waited, patient. I am Valari, Lyra began. We are merchants and traders. We travel the galaxy buying and selling. Our worth is measured in credits, in deals made, in profits earned. She looked down at her hands. I was a junior trader. I made a bad deal. I lost everything. All my credits. All my trade goods. Everything. That can happen to anyone, Do-hyun said gently. No, you don't understand. In Valari culture, when you lose everything, you become void-marked. It means you have no worth, no value. You are less than nothing. Her voice broke slightly. My captain left me here. My crew didn't argue. My family will not acknowledge me. I sent 17 messages. None were answered. Do-hyun's face showed anger, but his voice stayed gentle. That's horrible. It is our way. It has always been our way. Those without credits are worthless. I am worthless. No, Do-hyun said firmly. You're not worthless. I don't care what your culture says. You're a living being who deserves dignity and care. Lyra felt something strange in her chest. It hurt, but not like hunger hurt. I have been on this station for 23 days. I tried to find work, but without credits to register properly, no one would hire me. I tried to trade my labor for food, but I am too weak now to work well. I was going to die here alone, and no one would care. I care, Do-hyun said simply. Those two words hit Lyra harder than anything else. She looked up at this strange human, who made no sense according to everything she had been taught. Why? She whispered. Before Do-hyun could answer, there was a knock at the door. Lyra jumped, her fear immediate and strong. Do-hyun noticed and gave her a reassuring look before going to open it. An older human woman stood there, holding a covered dish. She was small and round with kind eyes and gray hair. Do-hyun, dear, the woman said. I heard you were sick. I brought some soup. Then she noticed Lyra and smiled. Oh, you have a guest. How wonderful. Is there enough food? Hannah, this is Lyra, Do-hyun said. Lyra, this is my neighbor, Hannah. She used to be a teacher. Hannah came right in, setting the soup on the kitchen counter. She looked at Lyra with open curiosity, but no fear or disgust. You look thin, dear. Are you eating enough? Do-hyun, is she eating enough? I'm making sure she eats, Do-hyun said, smiling. Good, good. Hannah opened the container she brought. This is bone broth soup. Very healthy. Good for building strength. She started serving it into bowls without asking permission. Lyra watched, confused. What? What is the cost of this? Hannah looked puzzled. Cost? There's no cost, dear. You need food. I have extra food. That's how neighbors work. But you gain nothing. I gain a full heart, Hannah said, patting Lyra's shoulder gently. Now eat. Later, after Hannah had left, another knock came at the door. This time it was a younger man carrying a bag of clothes. Junho, Do-hyun said, surprised. What are you doing here? Heard you called in sick, Junho said. He was tall and thin with an easy smile. Wanted to check on you? Also, I brought some old clothes my sister left behind. Thought maybe ... double quotes, he glanced at Lyra. Well, thought maybe they might be useful. Doyoon took the bag and introduced Lyra. Junho waved at her in a friendly way. Nice to meet you. Hey, if you need anything else, just let Doyoon know. We look out for each other around here. After Junho left, Lyra looked at the bag of clothes. He just gave these? For nothing. For nothing, Doyoon confirmed. The rest of the day brought more surprises. Sora, the building's maintenance worker, came by to fix a light. She saw Lyra and said nothing about reporting an unregistered alien. Instead, she just smiled and said, "Nice to see Doyoon has company. He's alone too much." Each interaction confused Lyra more. In her world, every action had a price. Every kindness required repayment. Every gift created debt. But these humans just gave. They helped. They smiled and asked nothing in return. That evening, as Doyoon prepared dinner, Lyra watched him carefully. "Your people are strange," she said. "How so?" "You give without receiving. You help without profit. You care for those who cannot repay you." She paused. "My people would call you fools." Do-hyun turned to look at her. "Maybe we are fools, but we're happy fools. We have something your people might not understand." "What?" "Community. Connection. We're not just individuals trying to survive and profit. We're part of something bigger. When I help you, I'm not just helping you. I'm making my world a little better. I'm living according to values that matter to me." Lyra felt tears forming in her eyes again. She had cried more in 2 days with humans than in her entire life before. "I don't understand these feelings," she said softly. "In my body, there is something happening. Something I have no words for. Maybe it's hope," Doyoon suggested gently. "Maybe it's relief. Maybe it's the feeling of being cared for." Lyra looked at her 3-fingered hands. They were steadier now. Her skin's bioluminescent patterns were starting to glow a little brighter. Her body was healing. But something else was changing too, something deeper. "Tomorrow," Doyoon said, "we'll go to the clinic. Get you checked out. Then we'll go to the immigration office and get you registered properly. A friend of mine works there. He'll help." "Another friend who helps for nothing?" Doyoon smiled. "Another friend who helps because that's what friends do." That night, Lyra lay on the couch under the soft blanket, staring at the ceiling. Her entire understanding of the universe was being challenged. Everything she had been taught about worth, value, and survival was crumbling, and strangely, she wasn't afraid. For the first time since losing everything, she felt something that might be peace. The clinic was nothing like Lyra expected. In Velari medical facilities, everything was clean and cold and efficient. You paid first, received treatment second. Here, a tired-looking human doctor simply asked what was wrong and started examining her immediately. "Malnutrition, dehydration, and exhaustion," the doctor said, making notes. "Nothing permanent. With proper food and rest, you'll recover fully." She smiled at Lyra. "You're lucky your friend found you when he did." Doyoon waited outside while Lyra received vitamin injections and supplements. When she came out, she held a bag of additional nutritional packets. "How much do I owe?" she asked the receptionist nervously. "Nothing," the woman said cheerfully. "This clinic is funded by the colony. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege." Lyra stared at her. "I don't understand your system." "You don't have to," the woman said kindly. "Just get better." Later, at the immigration office, Doyoon's friend Taeyang greeted them warmly. He was young and professional, with an efficient manner that reminded Lyra a little of her own people. But when he spoke, his kindness was clear. "The paperwork will take a few days," he said, typing quickly. "But I can fast-track it. We get a lot of refugees here, people who've been abandoned or left behind. The colony has programs to help, programs? Lyra asked. Housing assistance, job training, language classes, mental health support. Tai Yang listed them casually, as if they were normal things. Once you're registered, you'll have access to all of them. Why would the colony do this? Tai Yang looked up from his screen. Because everyone deserves a chance. Because we believe in taking care of each other. He smiled. Plus, refugees often become the hardest workers and most loyal citizens. They understand the value of community because they've seen what happens without it. Walking back to the apartment, Lyra watched the humans around her. She had been on this station for weeks, but had never really looked before. She had been too focused on survival, too blinded by shame. Now she saw things differently. She saw a human helping an elderly alien carry groceries. She saw a group of children from different species playing together in a small park. She saw a community bulletin board advertising free language exchange programs and shared meal events. This park, she said to Do-young, anyone can use it? Of course, without paying. It's a public space. It belongs to everyone. Lyra walked to a bench and sat down. Do-jun sat beside her. She watched the children play, their laughter mixing together regardless of species. On Velari worlds, everything has a fee, she said quietly. To enter a park, you pay. To use a public bathroom, you pay. To walk on certain streets, you pay. Those without credits stay in the lower levels, in the dark, in the cold. That sounds like a hard way to live. It is the only way I have known. Lyra turned to look at him. But watching your people, I am beginning to think my people are missing something important. Over the next few days, Lyra's education in humanity continued. Hannah took her to a community meal at a local temple. Dozens of people gathered to share food, and anyone could come. Rich or poor, citizen or refugee, it didn't matter. This happens every week, Hannah explained. Different groups organize it. Sometimes it's the temple, sometimes the community center, sometimes just neighbors who want to help. Lyra ate slowly, watching the interactions around her. She saw humans laughing with aliens, sharing stories, passing food without counting who gave more or received less. An elderly man patted a young alien child on the head affectionately. A human woman helped a disabled alien reach the serving table. What do they gain from this? Lyra asked. Hannah thought about it. Connection, I suppose. Purpose. Joy. The feeling that we're part of something larger than ourselves. These are not profitable things. Profit isn't everything, dear. Some of the richest people in the galaxy are miserable. Some of the poorest are happy. It's about what fills your heart, not what fills your account. One day, Junho took Lyra to the library. She had never seen one before. The concept of freely sharing information without charging for it was completely foreign. You can borrow any of these? She asked, staring at thousands of data tablets. Any of them, Junho confirmed. Take them home, read them, return them when you're done. Some people never return them, but most do. It's based on trust. Trust. Lyra tested the word. Your society runs on trust. More than credits, yeah. Junho pulled a tablet and handed it to her. This one's about Earth history. Might help you understand us better. Lyra spent hours that night reading. She learned about human philosophies and religions that emphasized compassion. She read about the Golden Rule, about Ubuntu, about concepts like loving kindness and mutual aid. She learned that throughout human history, societies had developed systems to care for the weak, the sick, the poor. Not all humans followed these ideals. The texts were clear about that. Humans had wars and conflicts and failures. But the ideals existed. They were taught, valued, and practiced by millions. Nothing like this existed in Velari culture. The next day, Minho, who Lyra had met briefly before, invited her to his workshop. He repaired electronic devices as a hobby. "Your translator is old," he said, examining the device attached to her collar. "Let me upgrade it for you." He worked for an hour, replacing components, updating software. When he finished, Lyra could understand Galactic Standard much more clearly. "What do I owe you?" she asked. Minho waved his hand. "Nothing. I like fixing things. Gives me something to do." But the parts, salvaged from broken devices, would have been thrown away otherwise. "Waste not, want not," as my grandmother used to say. Later that week, an elderly woman named Nari stopped Lyra in the hallway. She had noticed Lyra several times and finally introduced herself. "I'm starting a community garden on the roof," Nari said. "Would you like to help? I have extra seeds." Lyra found herself on the roof with a dozen other residents, humans and aliens alike, all working together to plant vegetables and flowers. Nari showed her how to press seeds into soil, how to water them gently. "These plants will grow food for everyone," Nari explained. "Anyone in the building can take what they need. What if someone takes more than their share? Then we plant more next season. Usually people are fair. When you trust people, they tend to be trustworthy." Lyra knelt in the dirt, her three-fingered hands pressing seeds into the earth. Around her, people worked and talked and laughed. No one was counting who did more work. No one was calculating debts. They were simply working together to create something good. That evening, Lyra stood on the roof after everyone else had left. The sun was setting over New Sol Station, painting the sky in colors she had never noticed before. Below her, the colony hummed with life. People coming home from work, greeting each other, helping each other, living together. She thought about Velari trading stations, where everyone stayed in their own quarters, where interactions were purely transactional, where the void-marked were left to suffer alone. She thought about her family, who had abandoned her without a second thought because she had lost her credits. And she thought about Do-Yun, who had found her dying and brought her inside without asking anything in return. Her universal translator had a recording function. She activated it and spoke in her own language, knowing she might want to remember this moment later. "I have been Velari for 32 cycles," she said quietly. "I thought I understood the universe. I thought worth equaled wealth, that value was measured in credits, that those without resources deserved nothing. But humans have shown me something else. They have shown me that worth is inherent, that compassion is not weakness, that community is stronger than individual profit. I do not know if I can ever go back to thinking as I did before. I do not know if I want to." She paused, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. "The humans have a saying I learned today. We rise by lifting others. My people would call this foolish. But I have seen it work. I have been lifted when I had fallen. And for the first time in my life, I understand what it means to belong." 3 weeks had passed since Lyra collapsed at Do-Yun's door. She was stronger now, her skin glowing with healthy bioluminescent patterns, her movements no longer weak and uncertain. Do-Yun had helped her find work at the spaceport, simple sorting tasks that didn't require heavy lifting. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest work. And her coworkers were kind. Lyra was starting to believe she could build a life here. Then the Velari ship arrived. The notification came through the colony's public system. A merchant vessel, the Profitable Venture, had docked at the main port. Lyra saw the name and felt ice form in her stomach. That was her old ship, her old crew. "Maybe they won't find me," she said to Do-Yun that evening, her hands shaking slightly. "Do you want to hide?" He asked gently. Lyra thought about it. Part of her wanted to hide, to pretend she didn't exist. But another part, a newer part that had been growing these past weeks, felt different. No, she said finally. I will not hide. I am not void-marked anymore. I am a registered resident of this colony. I have work. I have worth. Dao-Yun smiled proudly at her. 2 days later, there was a knock at Dao-Yun's door. Lyra was there visiting, as she often did in the evenings. They had been sharing a meal, talking about her day at work. The knock made them both pause. Dao-Yun opened the door. A Velari stood there, tall and imposing, his skin patterned with the bright, complex glows that indicated high status. His clothes were expensive, marked with trading symbols. His 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face, focused on Lyra with recognition. Vexner, Lyra whispered, standing up. Her old captain, Lyra. Vexner's voice was cold. I was informed you were alive. I have come to offer you mercy. Mercy? Dao-Yun's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Vexner barely glanced at him. This does not concern you, human? This is Velari business. She's in my home, Dao-Yun said quietly. That makes it my business. Vexner's eyes finally focused on Dao-Yun properly. I am offering her a chance to return to the ship. She can work in the waste reclamation systems. It is the lowest position, but at least she will have purpose. Lyra felt old fear rising in her throat. Waste reclamation was horrible work, the kind given to those considered less than nothing. It was toxic, dangerous, and often fatal. That is not mercy, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. That is slavery. You are void-marked, Vexner said simply. You should be grateful for any opportunity. You have no worth, no value. You lost everything. She has worth, Dao-Yun said. The words were simple, but said with absolute certainty. Vexner looked at Dao-Yun with something like confusion. You are the one who has been harboring her. Why? What profit do you gain? Not everything is about profit. Then what? What game are you playing? Are you planning to sell her? Use her in some scheme? Vexner's eyes narrowed. I know how lesser species operate. Everyone wants something. I want her to be safe and happy, Dao-Yun said. That's all. Vexner stared at him. The silence stretched. Finally, he said, that makes no economic sense. She cannot repay you. She has nothing. I don't need repayment. Then you are a fool. Maybe, Dao-Yun agreed. But I'm a fool who sleeps well at night. Vexner turned back to Lyra. You have been living with this human? Taking his charity? Learning from him, Lyra corrected. Learning that there are better ways to live than how we were taught. Traitor, Vexner hissed. You speak against our ways. Your ways left me to die alone, Lyra said, and she was surprised by her own courage. Your ways teach that beings without credits have no value. Your ways are wrong. Vexner's patterns flared with anger. You will come with me now, or I will report you to the Velari Consortium as a renegade. They will mark you officially, and no Velari anywhere will ever acknowledge you again. They already don't acknowledge me, Lyra said quietly. I sent 17 messages to my family. None were answered. I am already dead to them. Then come with me, or I will. You'll what? A new voice, said Dot. They all turned. Hannah stood in the hallway, holding a basket of laundry. Behind her was Juno, and behind him was Sora, and behind her were more neighbors, all standing quietly in the corridor. Is everything okay, Dao-Yun? Hannah asked pleasantly, though her eyes were sharp. This Velari is trying to take Lyra against her will, Dao-Yun said clearly. Is that so? Hannah set down her basket. That doesn't seem right. Lyra is a registered resident of this colony, isn't she? She is, Sora confirmed. I saw the paperwork myself. Tai Yang processed it. Then she's under colony protection, Juno added. Forcing her to leave would be a violation of colony law. Dexner looked at the gathering humans with growing confusion. This is not your concern. This is between Velari. Lyra is our neighbor, Hana said simply. That makes it our concern. More people were arriving now. Minho appeared, wiping grease from his hands. Nari came up from the garden level. Other faces, some Lyra recognized, and some she didn't, all gathering in the hallway. No one looked aggressive. No one threatened. They just stood there, present and watching. Dexner's skin patterns flickered with uncertainty. What is this? What are you doing? We're being neighbors, Galyan said. We look out for each other here. This is irrational. None of you gain anything from protecting her. We gain a community where people don't abandon each other, Hana said. We gain the knowledge that if we ever need help, someone will be there. We gain the world we want to live in. Dexner looked around at all the calm, determined faces. He seemed genuinely baffled. You are all fools. Emotional, inefficient fools. Perhaps, Minho said cheerfully. But we're happy fools. Dexner looked at Lyra one more time. Last chance. Come with me now, or you will be officially marked as renegade. You will never be welcomed by Velari again. Lyra looked around at all the faces watching her. These humans who had fed her, clothed her, helped her, asked nothing in return. These people who stood here now, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because they cared. I choose to stay here, she said clearly, with people who value life over credits. Dexner's patterns went dark with anger. So be it. When the consortium learns of this, they will be informed about these humans and their dangerous philosophies. The galaxy should know what corrupting influence you spread. We're not corrupting anyone, Doyan said. We're just being decent. Dexner left, his footsteps echoing in the corridor. The neighbors didn't move until he was gone. Then, slowly, they began to disperse, murmuring reassurances to Lyra as they passed. You're safe here, dear, Hana said, patting her shoulder. Let us know if he comes back, Jano added. We've got your back, Minho confirmed. When everyone had left, Lyra sat down heavily on Do-Yun's couch. She was shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Something overwhelming. They all came, she said wonderingly. They didn't have to, but they all came. That's what community means, Do-Yun said, sitting beside her. He called you dangerous. He said human philosophies are corrupting. Do you feel corrupted? Lyra thought about it. She thought about the Velari way, where she had been left to die. She thought about the human way, where strangers had saved her life and asked nothing in return. I feel freed, she said softly. I feel like I have been living in a cage my whole life, and I didn't know it was a cage until someone showed me the door. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Dexner's words. Dangerous, corrupting, irrational. But she also thought about Hannah's basket of laundry set down without hesitation, about Junho's easy smile, about Sora's careful documentation, about all those neighbors who just appeared, not because they were ordered to, but because they cared. The Velari would call it weakness. But Lyra had seen its strength. She had felt its power. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would never go back to the old way of thinking. Some cages, once opened, can never hold you again. The weeks after Dexner's visit were peaceful. Lyra worked at the spaceport during the day, sorted cargo, learned the systems. Her coworkers were patient with her, teaching her the procedures, sharing their lunch breaks. She was no longer the strange alien who didn't understand human ways. She was just Lyra, the new sorter who worked hard and asked thoughtful questions. But something was building inside her. A pressure. A need. She had been carefully saving every credit from her wages. Every single one. She lived simply, eating the shared meals at the community center, accepting Hana's regular gifts of soup, wearing the clothes Junho had given her. She saved everything. After 3 months, she had enough dot. It was a quiet evening when she went to Do-Yun's apartment. He opened the door with his usual warm smile, the one that had become familiar and comfortable. "Lyra, come in. I was just making tea. I need to speak with you," she said. Her voice was formal, the way Villari spoke when conducting business. "It is important." Do-Yun's smile faded a bit, concerned. "Of course. Sit down." Lyra sat on the couch where she had first slept, where she had first felt safe. She pulled out a small data chip from her pocket and set it on the table between them. "This contains all my wages from the past 3 months," she said. "Every credit I have earned. I am giving it to you." Do-Yun stared at the chip, then at her. "Lyra, I don't—" "Please," she interrupted. "Let me speak. I have practiced this." He nodded, quiet. "In Villari culture, debt is everything. When you helped me, you created a debt. I have lived with this debt for 3 months. It weighs on me every day. I cannot truly be free until I repay what I owe." She pushed the chip toward him. "This is everything I have. I know it is not enough to cover the true cost of what you gave me. Food, shelter, time, care. But it is all I can offer. Please accept it." Do-Yun looked at the chip for a long moment. Then, gently, he pushed it back toward her. "No," he said simply. Lyra felt something crack inside her chest. "You do not understand. I need to pay this debt. It is the only way I know how to be free of it. You don't owe me anything, Lyra. You never did. But I do." Her voice was rising, cracking. "You gave me everything. You saved my life. You sacrificed your time, your resources, your comfort. There must be repayment. Why?" Do-Yun asked gently. The question stopped her. Because that is how things work. You give, you receive. You help, you are paid. There must be balance. What if I told you the balance is already there?" Do-Yun said. "What if I told you that seeing you healthy and happy is payment enough? That watching you grow stronger, seeing you smile, knowing you're safe, that's worth more to me than any credits?" Lyra's hands were shaking. She looked at the data chip, at her 3 months of work, of careful saving, of going without. "Then what am I worth?" She whispered. "If I cannot pay, if I cannot repay, what value do I have?" "You have infinite value," Do-Yun said. "Just by being alive. Just by being you." Something broke inside Lyra then. Something that had been barely holding together for months. She felt it shatter like glass, felt all the pieces fall. "I do not understand," she said, and her voice was breaking. "In my world, I am nothing. I have nothing. I lost everything. I am void-marked, worthless, less than worthless. And you just—" The words wouldn't come. Tears were forming in her eyes, hot and strange. "How can you see worth in me when I have nothing to give you?" The tears came then, really came. Not just a few drops, but deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. All the fear, all the shame, all the months of believing she was worthless, all of it poured out in a flood she couldn't control. Do-Yun moved to sit beside her. He didn't touch her, didn't try to stop the tears. He just sat there, present and calm. "You don't need to give me anything," he said softly. "You don't need to earn your worth. You already have it. Every living being has it. It's not about what you can pay or produce. It's about the fact that you exist, that you matter, that you deserve dignity and care just because you're alive." Lyra sobbed harder. "But that makes no sense. Nothing in my entire life has prepared me for this. I do not know how to accept it. You don't have to accept it all at once, Gallian said. Just start by accepting that right now, in this moment, you are safe and cared for. Not because you earned it, but because you deserve it. I spent my whole life believing I had to earn everything, Lyra said through her tears. Every scrap of food, every moment of rest, every word of kindness. I thought that was just how the universe worked. And when I lost my credits, when I became void marked, I thought I deserved to die because I had nothing left to trade. But you didn't die, Do-Yeon said. You survived. And then you let yourself be helped. That took courage. It felt like failure. It was strength. Lyra wiped at her eyes with her 3-fingered hands. The tears kept coming, but they felt different now. Lighter somehow. These emotions, she said. I do not have words for them in my language. We do not have concepts for ... for feeling valued without earning it. Do-Yeon suggested. For unconditional care? Yes, those things. Lyra looked at him, her vision blurry with tears. You have given me something I did not know existed. You have shown me that life can be different, that I can be worth something even when I have nothing. And I do not know how to carry this knowledge. It is too big, too different from everything I was taught. You carry it one day at a time, Do-Yeon said. You wake up each morning and remember that you matter. You go to work and do your best, not to earn worth, but because you already have it. You let people care about you, not because you owe them, but because that's what people do. We care, we help, we love, not for profit, but because it makes life worth living. Lyra cried for a long time. Do-Yeon sat with her, patient and steady. Eventually, the sobs quieted. The tears slowed. She felt empty, but also somehow fuller than she had ever been. I cannot go back, she said finally. I cannot go back to thinking the old way. Even if I wanted to, I could not. You have changed everything. Is that a bad thing? Lyra thought about it. She thought about the void-marked girl who had collapsed at this door months ago, believing she deserved to die. She thought about who she was now, someone with friends and work and a community that cared. No, she said. It is the best thing that has ever happened to me. She picked up the data chip and held it. If you will not take this as payment, will you hold it for me? As savings for my future? Do-Yeon smiled. That I can do. Over the next months, something shifted in Lyra. She stopped trying to calculate what she owed for every kindness. She started accepting help without shame. She even began to help others, not to create debt, but simply because she could. When new refugees arrived at the station, lost and afraid, Lyra was there. She spoke to them in their languages through her upgraded translator. She told them about the free clinic, the community meals, the kind humans who would help without asking for payment. Some of the refugees were Velari. Word had spread about the station where humans practiced dangerous philosophies. Void-marked Velari started arriving, seeking the strange human mercy they had heard about. Lyra welcomed them all. She told them her story. She showed them that worth was not measured in credits. 6 months after Vexnara's visit, Lyra stood on the station's observation deck with Do-Yeon. They watched ships come and go, carrying cargo and passengers across the stars. I heard a Velari merchant say something yesterday, Lyra said. They were trading at the port. They said humans are dangerous because we make people question their worth. They said we corrupt the natural order with our irrational compassion. What do you think? Do-Yeon asked. Lyra smiled. It was a real smile, easy and genuine, the kind she had never smiled in her old life. I think they are right. You are dangerous. You corrupt the idea that some beings are worthless. You spread the irrational belief that everyone deserves dignity. She paused. I think the galaxy needs more of this danger. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Thank you, Lyra said softly. For what? For teaching me that I am worth something, even when I have nothing to give. For showing me that love and care are not transactions. For giving me a life worth living. You're welcome, Doyen said. But you should know, you taught me something too. What could I possibly teach you? You taught me that even small acts of kindness can change everything. That sometimes just opening your door and sharing your food can save a life, can change your perspective, can make the universe a little better. He smiled at her. You taught me that I matter too, because I can make a difference. Lyra felt tears again, but these were different. These were not tears of pain or confusion. These were tears of joy, of gratitude, of belonging. I am crying again, she said, laughing a little through the tears. That's okay, Doyen said. Crying can be good sometimes. In my old life, I never cried. Velari culture teaches us that tears are weakness, that emotion is inefficient. What do you think now? Lyra wiped her eyes, looking at the stars, at this beautiful, irrational human station where worthless aliens were given worth, where the void marked found purpose, where kindness was more valuable than credits. I think, she said, that tears are not weakness. They are proof that we care, proof that we feel, proof that we are alive in the deepest sense. She smiled at her friend, this human who had saved her without knowing it. I think crying is one of the most human things I have learned to do. And there, on the observation deck, surrounded by stars and possibility, Lyra cried tears of understanding, of joy, of profound gratitude for the day she had collapsed at a stranger's door and learned what it truly meant to be valued, not for what she could give, but simply for being alive.